So, you are a naturopath chiropractor, is that correct?
Well, I'm not a naturopath. I am so what I've been my entire so I've been a neuromuscular therapist. And
Okay.
neuromuscular therapy is really, and I've been doing that since 1996, and that's based on Janet Travell trigger point method, which basically says you can have all these points in the body that then can refer pain all over the place.
Okay.
And they use her a lot in like pain management, actually. And brilliant woman. I mean, one of the most brilliant people that's probably ever been on the earth. And she was if I'm not mistaken, she was like the personal doctor for JFK.
Oh, wow.
And a woman having that position and that much clout, I guess it was in the 60s,
Crazy.
is
Yeah.
really saying something, So
Yeah.
a brilliant woman, and I don't want to misquote anything. I'm sure somebody could call me because I haven't like read her biography, but she took a lot of pieces from Eastern medicine and Western medicine and pretty much intertwined them and really did some just amazing stuff. And so that's what my initial basis was in neuromuscular therapy. And then I became a chiropractor in 2001 and always was very guided by the muscular system and the
Mm.
nervous system, not so much what people think of in conventional chiropractic.
Okay.
A lot of people don't realize chiropractic doesn't have to be rack and crack. In fact, that's only just one type of chiropractic. So
Yeah.
a lot of misinformation in that, and that happens a lot with things that aren't necessarily all money based, like a lot of the pharmaceutical kind of stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
Everything is needed. Everything has a place. Chiropractic can be as gentle as a fingertip, like literally just that's it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of people don't think that. But long story short, is I intertwine the muscles, and that's really what started me on my journey through all of the things that I've been doing since 1996. Really,
Wow. Yeah, I
yeah,
think chiropractic can kind of get a bad name because you go once and it's like, oh, you got to buy a series, you got to come all the time. It
yeah,
almost becomes like an addiction and imposed by the chiropractor, or even with people thinking, oh, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go just to feel okay. And then in my opinion, then it kind of takes away your body's natural ability to heal and adjust on its own, and now you're dependent. If you don't get that chiropractic visit, then all of a sudden you're like any addiction, you're lost, you don't know what to do, you're a mess. And so I think, like everything, there's bad players, and B, people can just overutilize things, which
yeah.
then ends up giving it a bad name.
I think you're. I mean, there's not such a thing as 1,000%. You're 100% right. And it's like I'd always use the analogy of this. It's like there can be good and bad in any profession, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, and you can have people that have the proper intentions and the proper delivery and the proper guidance. And this is a big part of all the things that I'm doing right now. I ask people to do something they're not used to doing, which is use their nugget up there. Use common sense. You go
Yeah.
to the gym. We can say the same thing about the gym, right? The gym is an addiction. It's addiction
Yep.
because brain chemicals are released and endorphins are released in your body. It makes you feel better. It makes you look better. So maybe it helps your physical, your emotional, and your chemical. You'll hear a lot of that stuff with me.
All
So
that
that's a
stuff.
good thing. Going to the gym
Hmm.
is a good thing. Eating well is a great thing. So we all have these tiers of addiction, but some addictions are better than others. So when it comes to chiropractic, said, look, I never will see a patient 3 times in a week. Like there's
Wow.
just no reason for that unless they've had some sort of massive accident, God forbid, you know,
Hmm.
where we need to, because it's all about muscle memory, right? So we want to make sure that the muscles are where they're supposed to be and that signals are going back and forth properly. But that translated to some docs as, hey, how much can I make off this patient? Like, how many
Mm.
visits a year do you have? 30. Oh, okay. So we're going to use all 30.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you get pay cut. But it's not any different in pain management. It's not any, they want to max whatever you have. And we have a broken healthcare model. And that's a big, big part. I don't know if we'll get into that with me today, but that is a massive part of what I'm doing. The TheraPain Plus is a product that I think can change the world for the better. I know it can, but that's just a product. That's something that people can use as a tool for help with things that like addictive pharmaceuticals and things like that. It
In
does not
in
take the
replace of in replace
Yeah,
of
it's not
that,
in
some of that.
well, it could be,
Yeah.
right? But my
Yeah.
thought is, because I'm sorry, I don't mean to be bouncing around, but my thought is anything that can make something better is good.
Yeah.
We may not ever get to the point, in fact, we're never going to get to the point where everything's perfect. We don't live in utopia, right? But we got to do our best. If we can improve things, if we can make things better, if we can make a person less dependent on something that's not good for them, that doesn't mean they're not doing it anymore, right? But let's say we can make an improvement on that, then the overall balance of the scales and in our society, when if it's opioids we're talking about, if it's whatever, is better.
Yeah.
We can only look to improve. To be perfect is an imperfect thought. It's not ever going to be like that. But
Yeah.
we can try. But we can try. Right?
Well,
We can try.
what I like about your product and what you're talking about is those means of healthcare and pain management all have side effects. They all have things that are now you're not contending with the original thing, but now you're contending with,
Yeah.
the side effects
Yeah.
of that thing, whether it's addiction and, getting sick if you don't take your medicine or, all the different things that go with the non-natural stuff that you're now contending with. And maybe it's better than the pain, so it's worth it, but there is
Right.
always still something that goes along with it. Then nothing comes for free. However, with your natural products,
That's
there is
it.
no side effects. It's what your body needs, is what your body wants. And so you're not having to then contend with other things that aren't part of that.
And I think you actually just you triggered something when you were saying that. You're 100% right. We need to probably define this for people out there. There's a massive difference between addiction and dependence.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a massive difference, and there can be physical addiction and physical dependence, and there can be emotional, physical, both, and there can be chemical addiction and dependence, and these are different. And you deal with this on the daily, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that's integrated into your project, your rehabilitation of people, and you're helping people. And we have to find balance, and this is what goes back to the very beginning of the conversation. I ask people to use their head. The first thing you have to do, you got to be honest. You got to look in the mirror. You got to be honest with yourself. And then you got to be honest with those around you that are trying to help you or assist you or be a part of your process. Because if you're not going to do either one of those things, this is all a moot point. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, in other words, you can go to the hospital, God forbid, and something's happened, and we're probably in the best country in the world if you're in an emergency situation, right? And we
Yes.
have all that, right? And so we applaud our doctors and our nurses. We applaud them and thank goodness, right? But if you go in for the most simple things, those doctors don't know what to do. That's
Right.
not what they do. That's not their thing. They're there to save your life.
Yeah.
I'm
They're
saying all
triage.
this, right? And they're going to send you out to a specialist, and that's the way our healthcare system is. The point of saying all this is that we have to be specific with what's really going on and causing the problem. That's a big part of my RPEX program that we may or may not talk about today. But addiction versus dependence are very different, and you have to define what they are. You got to be honest with yourself and those around you so you can figure out what's the best fit for you. But
Yeah.
to your point, anything natural, whether it be my product or a number of different things, whether it be detox therapy, infrared therapy,
Mm.
sauna therapy, things that are helping to
Hmm.
detox your body. There's always a connection between the physical, emotional, and chemical world inside of our body, universe that's inside of our body, and everything equally affects everything else. So if we can bring one thing's dependence or addiction down, right, a little bit more, then things have a tendency to try to balance themselves out. And that's what this whole thing is about, to the chiropractic and the addiction. If something feels good, are you addicted? Like if you go to the gym, are you addicted?
Yeah. If it's self-created and not
It could
man-made.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be, right? So, but
Yeah.
we would say that's hopefully a good addiction, but people that take it to the next level, right? It can be seen as a not a good thing, right? Now they're taking crates, and now they're taking all these other things that are affecting. So we have to have perspective, right, and balance. And who am I to say what's good and bad, and who are you to say? But it's up to the person to find some equilibrium.
But at the same time, I also feel like
without side effects.
it's important to educate people, because with the internet, and although we have information at our fingertips, you're almost flooded with so much information that it
Yeah,
can be difficult for people to use their head, because all they know is what Google's first 5 answers are, or that sort of thing. So I do see a lot of people like
yeah,
really trying concerted efforts to do the right things, but there's so much misinformation out there.
yeah,
Specifically, even with our FDA that's now being exposed, and that they're believing the authorities in these areas because that's what they've been taught to do, and that's who they
right.
trust. But then that's leading them
You want to
down
stop.
the wrong path with pharmaceutical companies and all the other things. So it's difficult for someone to sometimes decipher what is correct and right and what is just a money-making scheme that somebody's getting rich off my unhealth, because they don't want you to get better. They want you to be dependent on that system. So it can be difficult without correct information to even navigate your
Absolutely.
own life.
It's a real double-edged sword. I mean, you've hit 1,000 like perfect examples there, because we want to assume the best of people, and in reality, we know that not everybody has the same intention. We know that not everybody has the same. Sorry, somebody wants attention down there. We know that everybody's intentions aren't the same, right? Everybody's agenda is not the same. And what I have found in my personal existence as a doctor and counselor and helper for people is that the really sad part in our society is that I feel like the more honest and outgoing and helpful you try to be, the more resistance there is because of this, because technology has made people so isolated.
Mm,
And COVID obviously increased
hmm.
that
Yep.
sensitivity, the hypersensitivity, to a point. If I say hi to somebody, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, who are you? Like, why are you saying hi to me? What's your agenda? I'm like, I, it's
Yeah.
strange. So when you're trying to help people and give them guidance and stuff, to your example, the first 5 answers on Google, somebody's paying for those first 5 answers,
Yeah.
right?
Somebody
You
with a
know,
huge pocketbook.
and an agenda, right?
Yeah.
And to about the FDA and everything, we obviously have to have a hierarchy. We have to have structure, and we hope and assume that hierarchy and structure is going to be working to our advantage, and they're trying to do the right things for us and trying to protect us. But we all know that's not reality, and we're finding that out more and more. But
Yeah.
to what you just said, um, and there is so much misinformation. Like one of the things about the TheraPain Plus, and I'm not trying to necessarily plug it so much right now, but the thing with the TheraPain Plus that's amazing is that it has MSM and glucosamine. Okay, MSM and glucosamine are anti-inflammatory, naturally occurring ingredients. But we can't say that it's an anti-inflammatory, that it's a topical anti-inflammatory necessarily, because the FDA says that we're not allowed to do that because this hasn't gone through chemical trials. So like Advil, all the things that are medicine, right?
Yeah.
They have to go through pharmaceutical trials, and then they can get an FDA approval to say, oh, Advil, an anti-inflammatory. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So this is considered the same thing as, it's in the same class, FDA registered, as Bengay, therapy, what do you call it, Biofreeze,
Mm.
all that stuff, Icy Hot, Tiger Balm. Even though Tiger Balm's capsaicin, it's not um, uh, the same as this. The I can't think of the word right now. That's embarrassing. Wait, let me look. Anyways,
Topical.
getting back,
Yeah.
I for some reason I've got a different word in my head, but the long story short is this is a completely natural product, and we're using naturally occurring essential oils. There's nothing unnatural, where I could not make that same argument for these other products, but I still can't say on the air that it's an anti-inflammatory,
Right.
because the FDA says that that's not what it is, even though it has MSM glucosamine, which are proven to be topical, naturally occurring anti-inflammatory ingredients.
Yeah. Well,
So I
and I
did not
really
say, so I did not say it was an anti-inflammatory.
it just has the same ingredients. Well,
All right.
and I appreciate that, because we
Yeah.
utilize essential oils in our detox area as much as possible. And but again, it's a difficult thing, because like even I'll have clients come in and say they work out in the gym, they feel good, but their body starts to hurt. Their first instinct is go to the health office. Let me get some Advil. My body is aching from working out, and trying
Right.
to educate them on like, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. write it out. Don't immediately medicate, because that's sort of trained in old patterns, not just with addicts, but with most people. Like, it's the go-to,
Absolutely.
take a medication. And again,
Yeah.
as we talked about, those things aren't just an anti-inflammatory. They cause damage to the liver. They have,
All right.
other
They
effects
have to
that,
go through your system. That's what
yeah.
people don't understand. They don't, because again, it's not that they're not smart. They just don't understand. They're not educated. And that's a big problem in our society, right? Is education.
Well,
And
proper education. Yes.
well, right. And again, the agenda and who's educating you, what's their intention. But to your point, I think you bring up a wonderful thing. And that's one of the big things about this particular product and the things that I try to do in general in practice. I think of the pros and the cons, and I try to find a smarter, not harder way to get from point A to B,
Yeah.
right? So have you ever been a physical therapist? And I'm not saying anything that, but if you ever had to go through physical therapy after any kind of thing, they'll give you a million stretches and a million things. I don't know one person that's ever done all the things, right? So what ends up happening is you get overloaded. And I'm bringing this up to go back to your gym example. You get overloaded and overstimulated. And now you're getting frustrated because you're not really given attainable goals. And that's a big part of my
Mm,
program. We have to give you reasonable, attainable goals that are going to make you feel good about your progress so that you're going to want to go farther and want to do more. But if you
yeah.
overload me with 3 pages of, even it
Homework.
doesn't have to be PT. Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be anything. If you overload me with so much stuff, I can't process it. Most people are going to be like, I don't want to, I don't want to do that. And I don't know your program over there, but from what I've read and what I see, I feel like you guys have reasonable and attainable goals,
Yes.
like
Absolutely.
steps. Let's
Very
take
laid out.
one
Yeah, we have 4
step at a
phases, we
time.
have detox. They
Right.
have 4 blocks throughout the day that they have to show up to and be accountable for, like you said, physical, mental, group, like all the different things. We hit all the points every day. But you're right, it's very regimented, and there's a specific curriculum that needs to be done. It's not just winging it and hoping for the best. It's
Because we
there's
all
a
actually
yeah.
structure, right?
There's
I mean,
perfect structure with an
yeah.
attainable goal at the end of it. It's not just a lifelong do this for the rest of your life kind of thing. It's
Right.
you reach the goal before you leave.
One step, next step, take a
Yeah.
breath, relax. You're not being pushed.
Yeah.
We're taking a step together. And that's how I approach everything. It's how the TheraPain Plus I approach it. It's how my practice when I was practicing full time. I just believe that, and this is something we haven't brought up and haven't gotten into, and I apologize for that, to your audience. And they may or may not know your story, right? I don't know how many listeners know your entire story. But, from my standpoint, I had what I thought was a pretty awesome thing going for a long time. We all have our hiccups, of course, but in 2017, I had life changing, or 16, I had an accident that caused my entire trajectory, to tank, and
Yeah.
I
So
had to
let's
have
talk about that. So
massive
what kind of
surgery. Yeah.
accident? Okay. But what
What
was
what
the accident?
I wish it was something I could tell you that was juicy and exciting. But it's actually, so when I say people, it's very anticlimactic, and I basically, without, because I'm not allowed to say certain things, gag order and all. I was at a
Mm,
place, and that place didn't do a good job of their internal structure, their internal maintenance, or whatever you want to call it.
mm, mm-hmm.
And so, long story short, is there was a like a European style chair. Long story short, and you see them on TV all the time. It's a great brand of chair. It's a very sturdy chair, but they had not taken good care of it. It had been outside for long amounts of time, apparently. And long story short is that I fell through this chair. Like, there was supposed to be 8 straps. You know the straps you use when you climb a mountain and you ratchet them down, the canvas straps. Like, nothing's going to
Yeah.
tear through those things.
Yeah.
You literally have to saw through those things, like,
Yeah.
massively, to get them to cut.
Sure.
Anyway, somehow or another, there were supposed to be like 8 on the back and 8 on the bottom. Well, there was, I think, 6 on the back and 4 on the bottom, and 2 of the bottom ones were tied together in a knot.
Mm.
Not 8. So my butt went right through. You see why this is not a very exciting story. My butt went right through, and I folded, so my feet were
Oh,
where my head is.
oh, wow.
Now, you think that sounds so, like, innocuous. Like, what's the big deal? You couldn't have been that far from the cement. The cement didn't cause it. What happened was, because of the, when you go to sit down, you assume that gravity won't bring you all the way down. You don't even think to brace yourself.
Right.
Well, this thing didn't even have arms. It didn't have the arm. And so, I mean, my full impact went straight down, and I
Yeah.
literally folded like that. So I herniated, 7 discs simultaneously. Just
Wow.
crazy, just a weird angle.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if it had not been me, it was going to be the next person who sat there.
Yep.
And that could have been somebody who was not in decent shape, and who,
Right.
it could have I mean, it messed me up bad, but it could have, who knows what it could have done to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so it has changed my entire life and my entire trajectory. But to the point that I was going to say is that it has made me an acutely sensitive and empathetic person, even more than I already was, where I always try to take not just the doctor view, but the patient's view.
Mm.
And that's where these realistic outcomes come from. And that's where I think oftentimes about, how would I react to this information? How do I make a care plan that is prepared specifically for that person? I don't follow protocols. Protocols can F off. Like, protocols are about you. Protocols are you. It's
Yeah.
not me. I
Yeah.
can have ideas, but I have to tailor that to the person. And I don't think, I know that that's not how healthcare is. And again, that's one of the things I feel like that makes me different, and has always made me different, and what's brought me to these different pathways that I'm getting into. And I think we need to do a better job. Healthcare is broken,
Yep.
Angie. Our system is broken, and
Yep.
it's not just the system. It's a lot of different things that I won't necessarily get into. But if I don't stand up and say what I'm saying to you right now, if I don't create my RPEX, if I don't create this podcast exactly like you're doing, I'm not saying this to kiss anybody's butt. I'm not saying any of these things. These are not going to be popular thoughts to
Yeah.
plenty of people. They might think I'm whatever they think, right? But if somebody doesn't say it out loud and start making changes, then everybody's going to continually say, which they're already saying, what's wrong with my doctor? What's wrong with healthcare? Why do I have to pick? I mean, why don't we let's make it better?
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that, I mean, there's
We
proof in the
can.
pudding. You're getting results. But a lot of me feels like, if we can, like you were talking about, get your mind on board, there's almost a placebo effect that can occur where people are doing the actions, they're coming to see you, they are going in with the mindset that I can fix or cure whatever's going on with me. This doesn't have to be a lifelong injury, illness, whatever it is. And the brain's power of correcting and fixing our bodies is a big part of it. Like, if we believe that we can get better and we do action towards that step, we can get better.
On a cellular level, absolutely. It's, there's a lot of studies out there that we can call it a placebo effect, but it's really not a placebo effect. I mean, it's anything to your your point you just said. Any action towards progress is a positive action,
Yeah.
right? It's creating changes in our body. People have to think about this. We watch all these Marvel things, right? Was it Ant-Man? And Ant-Man was one of the Marvel movies, right? With
I'm not a big
anyway.
Marvel person. I
Well,
think Hulk is
well,
what I
see,
know.
he turned into an ant.
Okay.
He was this man the size of an ant, so he could go into you like on a cellular level, right?
Okay.
Like, well, whatever. And the point is that, and we're doing these things, by the way. This is happening. Nanotechnology is a real
Right.
thing, and it's starting to happen. And I hope to God that we get to the point where we can put nano robots in our body. But then somebody will say, "Oh, well, the robots and Terminator." It's
Well,
all true.
and it could be
It's
used
all
against you.
true.
It will have
It's
its pros,
all
but it'll have
true.
its cons. Yeah.
Yeah, like everything. Exactly. It has its pros and
Yeah.
cons. But the point is that every one of us is our own universe. Now, I'm not trying to sound like Mr. Hokey Dokey right now, because I've got a little bit of that in me, right? I've got a little bit of that sort of mentality, but it's a real thing. Like, we are our own universe. Inside of us is our own little universe, and things, whether it's a placebo or not, do have a chemical change in our body and in our mind, and do make changes. So positive mental outlook and things that may or may not actually, in fact, be making changes inside of our body still make a change in our body.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
if we can work towards and find those practitioners and and if we could get the right information, that's a huge part of what my Real Talks podcast is about, and a huge part, which I can't wait to tell you about, RPEX, which stands for repetitive physical emotional chemical stress syndrome. It's a feedback
Mm.
loop. But this is a whole nother thing. The point is that everything acts on everything else. And if we could start getting practitioners to care a little bit less about the paradigm, structured thing, and get back to what you and I are talking about, take one step, simplify it, modify it, make it digestible, make it attainable. And now let's go to the next step, and we go a little farther, right? We can start making things easier for people. I actually just got this. Can you see that all right?
A little progress each day adds up to big results. Yes.
And that's the real thing. That's a true statement, if there ever was a true statement. And it's like going to the gym. When you go to the gym, you don't get results, right? You don't see yourself getting leaner or more fit by going to the gym once a month.
Right.
But that's the way our society, because of technology, that's the way people think.
Right.
They
They
think,
want the
oh, if
quick
I
fix,
just
the instant results. I did that
right,
once. Where's my,
yeah,
fabulous
why don't
six
I look
pack?
like
Like what
you? Why
happened?
don't I look like you, Angie? Why don't I
Yeah.
have your legs?
Yeah.
Well, because you
Yeah.
don't go to the gym and you don't eat right and you don't take care of yourself. That's
Yeah.
why you don't have the legs I have. But you
Yeah.
but you can have my kind of fit legs if you follow a couple simple protocols at first, and because you do training too, don't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
been doing CrossFit for
Right.
gosh, almost 15 years now. So yeah.
And I don't know your audience. I don't know if people know if they've just follow you and listen to you and watch your podcast, or if they've read your books. But I only know Angie from meeting her at an incredible conference that we were at about a year and a half ago in Tampa. But if you guys don't know Angie on these levels, I highly recommend that you go and look at her deeper and look and read her books and look at her stuff, because she's a really impressive person, and she's been
Oh, thank
through
you.
a lot of stuff that has made you who you are right now. And I think, and same thing with my accident, what happened to me, I have been through hell. I have, I have, I have been through hell, and I still have to deal with the ramifications of that situation that I went through. So people, like, I can't speak to anybody else, right? I know what you want, and you're trying to bring your guidance and things to people because of what you've been through,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And
that ends up
same
being
thing
our
with me,
strength is our adversity and what we've overcome. And then to lead
right?
from the front
Absolutely,
of like, I understand I've been there. Let me help you get through it
both
like I got through it.
sides.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes you, and I hope people think the same thing about me. That's what makes us great, is because we can look at it from both sides of the equation. We've been on both sides of the equation. Um, Again, it makes us much more empathetic to a person's situation. But at the same time, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think I can speak for you when I say this. It also encourages, I'll say it like this, it encourages us to have tough love
Yeah.
to some extent, right?
100%.
I understand where you are, Mr. or Mrs. Jones. I get it. I've been there. But now it's time to stop making excuses, and now let's get to work, kind of
Yep.
thing. And whether
I
it's your
love that.
training, your physical training, your mental training, your addiction training, your dependence training, whatever it is. And that's what I'm trying so much to give back to the world. And because of technology and those first 5 things on Google, there's a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and
there's a
that's
lot of there's also a lot of victimhood, right? So like
absolutely
exactly to your point,
100%.
I will have people say, "Oh my God, that's amazing. You've been through it." So you can be very empathetic for people. And I said, "Yeah, I can, but I can also hold them
For a minute.
accountable because I
Yeah.
know what it takes." Not everybody wants to be held accountable. It's way more
No,
comfortable to be the victim of whatever has occurred to them without
absolutely.
saying, what can I do to fix this or not be the victim of it, but actually overcome it? And so again, when we talk about society with the pill and the quick fix and, oh, you poor thing, we're not like necessarily trained to overcome or to
Sorry.
fix these things.
No, exactly. And not everybody has the same drive, right?
Right.
Not everybody's the same person, all that stuff. But that's I feel like where you and I and obviously tons and tons of other people have will let you have that to start with. We'll
Yeah.
hear you. That's a really huge part for me is I want people to know that they're being heard, right? That they're that the ears are open. I'm sure you're the same way. I know you were. I know you were because when we met, I I felt that vibe from you and I saw that vibe and I listened to that vibe and I know
Yeah.
that
I'm a counselor at heart for sure. I mean,
yeah,
I'm
yeah, you
trained in it,
sure
but
are.
also that's just who I am.
And I mean, and that comes out in your style, in your
Yeah.
vibe, you know. Like I didn't for the audience out there, I didn't know Angie from a hole in the. I mean, I didn't know anybody there. I was literally there as a vendor for the TheraPain Plus, and but I got to know these amazing people, these absolutely spectacular human beings that were telling their stories and telling
Mm.
their, you know, kind of what got them to where they were and everything else. And it was, I highly suggest that if any of you, Angie, I don't know if you have a link to all the people, but just the most phenomenal, inspiring, and wonderful people to listen to and to get guidance from. But anyways, when I met you, you were inspiring to me, and
Oh,
and I say that because there just aren't many people that live their talk.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Thank you. I mean,
they,
it sounds
they
great to
live
me. I'll take it.
they well they live there and I'm just trying to say that like if people
Yeah.
don't know you other than just they've tuned into your podcast, they need to listen to you because you have been through just like when I write my book
Yeah.
and as I'm finishing my book I should say and the RPEX methodology. Angie, I'm gonna change the world. Like
Yeah.
this is gonna change the world now. That and that's not Dr. Matt. That came from a universal, a Konzik record. Don't even ask me. I don't even know. It was like some stuff out of a movie downloaded to me in the middle of the night a year and a half ago
I
after I
love
met
that.
you. It's something right out of a movie. And I couldn't stop writing for 2.5 hours in the middle of the night. Now, I'm not trying to go off on a tangent and confuse people and then start thinking that I'm some like,
Oh, it's
but this
amazing. It's
really,
like stream
but
of
this really
consciousness, right?
happened. It
Yeah.
really happened. And it, I am, I think I'm a very intelligent person, but I am not that smart. This is something I never would have been able to come up with on my own. So maybe we'll get to that part of this conversation, or maybe not.
Well
But
let's get there. So that was what happened. You had this stream of consciousness in the middle of the night and started writing, and that's how you invented your RPEX as well as started writing your book.
yeah, well yes. Well, let me go backwards just a smidge because you'd asked me something, and I do have a tendency to be a little like squirrel, red ball. But I'm trying real hard not to. You asked me what happened to me. So in 2017, 16, 17, I had this massive surgery that changed my entire trajectory. And I mean, I had to learn how to walk again, Angie. Like, I mean, and so going through the timeline, whatever, it took me almost 2 years to get back to being functional enough, but I could never really practice again, unfortunately. And that's why I'm going back to
Mm,
that before I tell you the rest because I had to make so for all those people out there that have been through massive change and some really horrible and horrifying things, there is life again, right? I want people to remember that victim mentality.
yeah.
I had it, I did it.
Yeah.
I had hatred for those people, that did that to me, and they suffocated me. I mean, they wouldn't take fault for something that was their fault. I mean, I didn't do anything. So, we have a lot of that in our world. Again, getting back to what we said in the very beginning of all this, but you can either live and stew in that or you can do something with it and motivate yourself,
Yeah.
right? Now, I'm not going to say I was self-motivating very well because I wasn't. I was pretty pissed. I was
Yeah.
very pissed. And, I still have to deal with the pain. And if it wasn't the reason I'm bringing all that stuff up, because you asked me how this whole thing originally started, because I had two thriving practices. I was helping a lot of people, doing a lot of really good things. And then the rug got pulled out from underneath me. And I'm bringing this up because I'll bet you there's a lot of people out there listening that feel like that's happened to them, whether it was their fault or not their fault, of their own doing or not of their own doing. It doesn't matter, right? Because I think about the people that have been through that are going through your program and addiction, right? maybe it didn't start as their fault. Maybe it did. Who
Right.
knows? It
Well, a
doesn't
lot of them, it was an
matter.
accident and they got put on painkillers because
Right.
they were in an accident and then they became
And then
addicted to
it
the
led.
opiates. So they were
Right.
like a thriving, just like you, a thriving individual doing all the right things. And
And then
then
it
something
stopped.
occurred
Yeah.
yeah, that's how they ended up there.
And I think it's important that we bring that up. I'm sorry about, I'm trying to find, make sure the angle's good. I think it's really important to bring that up. And I'm sure, I hope that you think it is as well, because a lot of things happen, they don't happen on purpose.
Right.
And so we don't know where to put the blame, right? We don't know where to put. And so people that aren't handling that, they don't know. So it becomes self-loathing. It becomes eating, right? Their addiction now becomes
Guilt,
an eating
shame.
disorder. Cortisol, the
Hmm.
cortisol levels at night. And now, there's so much of this stuff that is really quite easy to handle. You just got to know where to look and know where to turn. And that's a big part of what RPEX is about. I don't know where the thing is, sorry. But it's what RPEX is about. So when all that happened to me, I had to change my entire trajectory because I wasn't ever going to be able to treat people the way, no matter how hard I tried, and I did try a couple times, you know. And just for reference, because people don't know, in your vertebrae, in your spine, right? In your spine, you have
Uh-huh.
what's called your cervical, which is your neck, right? Your neck, that's
Okay.
your bottom of your skull. You have your thoracic, that's our middle and upper back. And then the lower part is your lumbar spine, right? That's the lumbar spine. And these are your hip bones, obviously. So for a lot of us, especially as we're getting towards middle age and whatnot, especially because of posture and mechanics and all the things we do 20 years prior to something happening, we degenerate our discs, which are just gelatinous shock absorbers between our vertebrae, between the bones. Long story short, these nerves, right, they come out from underneath, or in between, I should say, the bone above and bone below. It's really fascinating stuff. They're like Legos. I mean, they really are. The human body and mind are quite exquisite, amazing things. If you
Yeah.
become a dork like me and look into it enough, it really becomes pretty wild. The reason I bring this up is that it's very seldom that people have to have three full segments caged and screwed in. And because two is a pretty normal thing, but three full segments, that's a lot because it changes your entire modulation, how you walk, how you move, your ability to bend. How do you clip your toenails? How do you tie your shoes? Two levels, not a big deal. Three levels is a massive difference. And that's what I had to have. And they literally had to open me from the front and get to the front of my spine
Oof.
from this way. And they
Wow.
had to do it from the back too. I bring this up only to say that makes gigantic changes in your body. Stuff that you can't, doesn't matter how many, it doesn't matter what you do, there are certain things that are not going to stop, right?
Yeah.
Or that are not going to be able to be fixed because they are what they are. And I'm saying this to all the listeners out there because that's okay. They have to understand and learn that that's okay. Like it's okay to take medication if you need to take medication, but understand the side effects.
Right.
So, for instance, I have a Kangen water machine, which is an alkaline water filtration system,
Same.
which is the best in the world. There is not a better machine that I'm aware of. Now, it's expensive, but for what it does for me, it's probably saved my life 100 times over. And again, I bring this up because if you're going to have to take medication, make sure you're filtering your body, your kidney, right? Your kidneys. There are things that we can do to have a positive effect, even when we have things like medication that we may have to do, right? Not we're encouraging people to, but you can make a change if you care to make a change. Make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
There's always a way. You can always eat a little bit better. You can find moderation in something else that you're doing. If you have to do something that's not good for your body, then you have to do something else to balance it a little bit. That's the way I
Yeah.
look at it. You
Well,
know,
and it takes consistency. It's like I can't just do it for a week and be like, "Oh, I'm better." It has to become more of a lifestyle as
lifestyle
opposed to
change.
a fad. And I think that's where a lot of people they lose interest, they don't see immediate results. They're
Right.
not sure if it's even working. Should I even be doing this because it's subtleties? But that's where I think faith and consistency just have to take over, because you're not going to see, for a lot of things, instantaneous results. It's going to be a process, and you just have to trust the process.
But how many of those people, I don't like the word but, I shouldn't have said but, to that point, um, there need to be people like you and myself, and there's obviously thousands of others. I met 15 or 20 at our event in Tampa.
Yeah.
There have to be, gurus out there. There have to be people that have found those intricately detailed subtleties, and that will help guide you. And I think that's one of the massive challenges, right? Is that, who are those people? And we need to do a better job of finding those people. We need to do a better job of allowing those people to thrive, and have people have more access to those people to guide them, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, who the heck would know who Dr. Matt Germain was? How would anybody know who I am unless, I hope when RPEX comes and my podcast comes and I can do the same types of things that you are, it'll lead to a lot more openings, open-mindedness, and it'll help people find other practitioners that can help them, or even if they're not practitioners, just friends, whoever it is, people that have good guidance patterns that will be that foundation, like you just said, consistency, step by step, find digestible little pieces that then will lead to bigger pieces. Small results become big results, but you got to start. And I think the hardest step is that first step for a lot of people, because they don't know who to lean on.
Right.
Because to your point, like, who's telling them what, right?
Exactly. And usually it takes a personal
to
experience, word of mouth. There's nothing better than that. So sometimes it just takes, and again, this is where, from your position and like from my position, is it's almost a full-time job, just out there promoting, hustling, talking, speaking, putting stuff out, content. Like
and we love
a
that, but
lot
we
of
also
work.
don't love it. It is a lot of work. It's so much
It's a
work.
lot of work, but that's what you have to do to be able to compete against people that have gigantic budgets, and all they have to do is
Right.
deploy 100,000 and their message goes to millions. Like, when you're not in that position, there's a lot of effort that needs to go in to really, sort of build that, not fan base, that following, that you can really reach a lot of people and help a lot of people.
To be considered an expert, instead of just being damn good at what you do.
Yeah.
And just providing excellent and whatever result-based, excellent service. Now you're having to compete, like you said, and play games with massive budgets and people that are looking. Listen, because this is a video and audio thing, and so I'm saying this to the people that are listening. There is no quick fix to anything that's worth fixing in this world. There is no Harry Potter. There is no magic button. There's no magic pill or potion or funny little saying that you can write on your mirror and everything's going to be better.
Damn it. Why you got to ruin my day like that?
However, all of those things do exist, but they help each other and they build, right? But there's no magic potion out there or whatever. So we have to get good information out there, like you said. And one of my goals, because I'm never like, okay, so let's just talk about this product, right? Because I haven't really said anything about it. So the TheraPain Plus, if it wasn't for this TheraPain Plus, talking about my massive surgery, they threw everything at me that you could throw at me from a pain standpoint.
Yeah.
Medications, nerve stuff, blah, 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 blah. I mean, even after the massive surgery, I still obviously had all kinds of problems. There was nothing that they could do that stopped me from wanting to jump off a building. There just wasn't. And it was never going to get better. It wasn't about time at that point. It wasn't like, oh, just give it some time. No. To this day, I still have to do all my stretches. I have to do all my stuff, or I'm a mess. If it wasn't for this product, I would not be sitting here talking to you. And I don't say that lightly, because that's not a very good thing to say. I don't like talking like that. But there's nothing out there. That's why I'm so passionate. That's why I bought into this company. There is nothing out there. There's some CBD products and there are some independent label products that are good and that I have no issue with. I have no beef. If something works, God bless you, man. Like,
Yep.
cool. I'm happy for you, you know.
Yeah.
But this, from a consistency and reliability and the ingredients and everything else about it, there's absolutely no reason anybody should ever spend another penny on any other products, because this does what that does in a natural way, but then actually provides you the relief that you want, which is because you have pain because you have inflammation. Okay, now we can go down the rabbit hole and say, okay, well, what's causing the inflammation? Your diet, your lack of exercise, your no flexibility, you know, whatever. It could be a million things. Okay, so but for the point of saying, you know, hey, I've got this carpal tunnel, I got this repetitive stressing, oh, my low back's killing me. Oh, I've got migraines and my TMJ and all the things that people have, plantar fasciitis and my hamstring and my this and my that. This product does not go through your bloodstream. It can be used as much as they want within reason. The FDA registration says 3 times on a spot in a day, but it doesn't go through your body systemically. So you can translate that however you want to translate that out there. You can use it. You just have to. I made up this little thing. I don't know if you heard this. So you shake, you roll, repeat. Shake, roll, repeat. That's it. You don't have to worry about anything else. Don't stick it in your eye. Don't stick it in your bottom. It's not meant to be inside your ear. Okay. And if
Don't eat
anything
it.
is out there, don't eat it. Right. Don't lick it. It's not a lollipop. So, and this isn't like what this is about, but so I took the thing off, right? It's really important that you shake it because the MSM glucosamine are the inactive ingredients, but they have to mix with the menthol was the word I couldn't think of earlier.
Yes.
Menthol. Menthol is what makes us alike with everything else. Okay, all the other ones, that's that train of thought I was saying.
Yep. Yep.
It's you know, it's got the eucalyptus and the peppermint and the menthol. Those are the essential oil, the numbing, the part that makes you cool. Okay,
Yeah.
and then and by the way, it doesn't have anything else. I mean, you can literally look this up online. You can look on the label. It's an absolutely wonderful. It's got deionized water, isopropyl alcohol, which means I could use this on my arm and then hand it to you. You could shake it, roll it, and there'd be no bacterial transference. Now, I don't suggest that you do that around the room because that's senseless. But for instance, like in your what do you call it, in your health,
Rehab,
in the rehab, but like if they went to the
the health
what's it
office,
called? Yeah, like the health office. What's it like when you're at camp and you have to go to
the nurse station or
yeah,
something.
there's a
Yeah.
word for it again. But anyway, so they're not going to use this and use it on every kid that comes in there. I mean,
Right.
but you could. Okay, so we have deionized water, we have isopropyl alcohol, and then the next ingredient is MSM, and then you know we've got the oil of peppermint, the oil of eucalyptus, and menthol, and so that is what makes it similar in its FDA registration to the other products. But that is the only reason why it's even considered the same thing, and I don't think it should be. Okay, does that make any sense?
Yeah.
We have to be registered under something for the FDA. To your
Yeah.
point about the FDA being in control, that is how we're classified. But this product works in a completely different way. It doesn't go through your bloodstream. It doesn't go through your digestion. You could be taking anything you're taking. Doesn't change a thing. Okay, doesn't change a thing, and you can use it on multiple body parts. My one suggestion and a little trick, and I know I went off a little bit, but I'm coming back to it. On my website, callingdrmatt.com, I'm starting to build it. This is all kind of new, folks. So I'm going to be having preferred vendors, right, or products or things that I think can help people. And they'll have an opportunity to, I don't know if you do this, kind of subscribe. And then that way they can actually have one-on-ones with myself so we can create a care plan for them, whatever. But I have no affiliation with this company, by the way, guys. It's called Comfy Temp. Can you see it? Comfy Temp. You can go on
Hmm.
Amazon and you can get a link on my site. But anyway, it's a weighted moist heat pack, moist heat pack. And they have lots of different ones, but it's got these beads in it and it gives it a weight. It's very soothing. My point is, one of the
Yeah.
challenges that people have with ice is that it's cold. They don't like cold. They like heat, right? So with the TheraPain Plus, this is just a little trick I'm bringing up. With the TheraPain Plus, it acts as like an icing. Again, I don't want to say it's an anti-inflammatory because I'm not allowed to say that. But MSM glucosamine have a reduction capacity to them, and it cools you down, right? And some people don't like to be cooled down. So you can use that with it on top, give it about 30 seconds, and it's an amazingly comforting feeling. Have you tried it yet? Have you been able to do that?
Yeah.
I may not have told you that part.
So I use it. I have it's more of a degenerative foot issue. So it
Yeah,
wouldn't fix what's happening, but
right.
certainly
No
when I've
magic
had
button.
pain, yeah, I utilize it and it stops the pain, which is nice because I'm very active. So I go walk
Yeah,
on the beach with a weighted vest. My foot is killing me, and I
yeah,
can put
right.
that on, and it handles the pain. And so for me, that's awesome because obviously I don't like to take anything. I like all natural remedies. I'm not Wonder Woman or, so I don't think that my
Kinda,
body is, oh, thanks. But I know
kinda.
my body, and I'm getting older. So, stuff happens.
No, you're
However, I
not.
like this.
No, you're not. You're not getting any older. Stop it. No,
I know.
but from our conversations, and again, for people out there that are just, as my dog is sneaking in the room, look, she's so sneaky. Well, anyway, the point is that it's helping, not because it's a numbing agent.
Right.
I could give two hoots about the numbing part of it. That's fine. It's nice. That's what everybody's used to. But it's the two inactive ingredients, the MSM and glucosamine, that are making a change in you that are helping the pain. That's the important part.
It is.
And you can use it as much as you want, and and that it's not going to affect anything else you might be doing.
Right.
So, and I love that because for medical doctors or for fitness professionals or nutritional gurus, or let's say people might be on something from their physiotherapist, or excuse me, their counselor, emotional therapist, psychiatry, whatever. You don't want to be mixing things when
Right.
it comes to medicine. That's one of the worst things you can do, is be mixing
Yeah.
these pharmaceuticals. Sorry, that's what I was trying to say. And again, pharmaceuticals are not the devil. They are, when they're needed and they're used responsibly, no issues whatsoever. You don't have any issue with it, I'm sure. I don't have any issues with it. We would like to find natural ways around that if we can. But sometimes people need, sorry, my dog's trying really hard to take the attention away. So if you see the thing moving, it's because she's underneath the table. And she's an 80-pound lab, by the way. So she's trying to get
Oh,
underneath the table. Point is, if you are taking something, I don't want anybody to feel guilty or bad or anything like that. Because if you need to take something, you take something. But the wonderful thing about this product is that it does not interact with your bloodstream. And so you don't have to worry about there being any kind of side effects, right? And the reason I brought up this comfy temp heating element is because that's what's called contrast therapy. So it's a bad analogy, but it's like a plunger. So, so you're sort of using like cold and hot simultaneously in a really nice way. That's actually very soothing for the person. It feels great. It's soothing, because not everybody, what's the main reason people don't want to use an ice bath? It's cold.
yeah.
Hurts, right? It hurts. It doesn't feel great. We know that we need it, but it kind of hurts. And so, if you roll your ankle, for instance, if you've ever torn your ankle out there, it hurts like the devil, right? Your foot swells up like crazy. Well, you don't put your foot in hot water, you put ice on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening in our body. All these, our wrists for carpal tunnel, our spine for all these degenerative arthritis, all this stuff, your foot. We don't always see swelling, but it's there. And the great thing about the TheraPain Plus is that that's what it's made for, is to help not only with dealing with the pain, but also helping to decrease the reason that the pain is happening.
Yeah.
I'm trying real careful to say that right.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I just sort of naturally did that. So I have it by my bedside, but in my bed, I have a weighted blanket with an electric blanket over it. So that is sort of my natural
Yeah,
comfort place. So for me, I can use it on my hand or my foot. And
absolutely.
then I'm in my happy comfort place. So I don't feel any of the cold effects. Although I kind of like that.
Exactly.
I kind of love that menthol. For me, it feels like
Yeah.
that signals my brain is working. So I don't dislike that, but I do enjoy a heated blanket, electric blanket. That's there's
and that's
nothing more
again
comforting than that. It's so weird.
no, it's not. It's not weird at all. No, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I'd say it's the opposite. It's a very natural. I
Yeah.
mean, we want to be warm and cuddly, and I mean, it's really interesting, right? So, because a lot of people like to be, it's actually better for you. Somebody could check me on this, but I'm pretty sure this is right. A cool room is you sleep better in a cool room, but no one wants a cold bed. So we
Right.
want to be warm and snuggly, but we want it, it's better to be in a colder environment. We sleep
Yeah.
better, we hibernate sort of. And
Yep.
so I guess that's what I'm trying to say about this particular product. There's these little, I mean, this is how I am with everything in the practice. I want to find little ways to do something slightly different that makes it easier, simpler. So getting back to the example about lots of exercises, we can achieve the same goal with 2 or 3 or 4 exercises and stretches or whatever that we could with 40 of the other stuff.
Right.
Not saying they don't know their job, not saying anything negative whatsoever. I'm just saying all these doctors and healthcare practitioners and counselors, they are taught what they are taught, right? Protocols, that's how they're taught and they get their license. And some of those doctors and counselors and fitness trainers and nutritionists, they don't go any farther. They do what they're told to learn. They don't go farther with it. They don't learn more about what's happening now, right? They don't look at the wider scope, I guess. Does that make sense? And unfortunately, the client or the patient or whatever suffers because they're not getting the full scope. They're not getting the full story, right? So, anyways, we just want to make things easier, smarter. Don't work harder, work smarter, kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and
So,
these are great, like little hacks that not everybody
little
knows
hacks.
or has, tried or even been
They
taught
haven't
this
been exposed
information.
to it. Yeah, they haven't
Yeah.
been exposed. And that's really what I think going rogue is a lot of it is about. And certainly
Yeah.
what my RPEX technique and what the Real Talks, Real Docs podcast is going to be about. I'm actually very much following your sort of what a lot of what you've done.
Mhm.
It's about awareness. It's about educating. It's not about telling people what to do. It's
Yeah.
about saying, listen, if you're not aware of this is out there. There's so much out there and they're just not exposed to it. How would you know if you're not exposed to it?
Right.
Your whole life may be on your neighborhood block. You may know nothing but that, or what you see on the internet or on TikTok or whatever. Well, that's
Yeah. Or
generally
what you were taught by
speaking,
your parents or
or
grandparents,
you're
which there's
absolutely,
technology has advanced so much from what used to work for them or what was okay.
absolutely.
Now there's a lot more current and quicker methods about doing things.
Absolutely. And those are, like you said, the hacks, the life hacks. And by
Yeah.
the way, some of these people on the internet, right? It's a real double-edged sword because I see there are some people that are just absolutely brilliant with the things that they'll find a way to do something. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, who knew a waffle iron would do that?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And some of it's complete crap, right? Some of it's brilliant, like savant brilliant.
Yeah.
And they're not anybody special. They're just, meaning they're not like some big wig, whoever. But I mean, some of the smartest doggone people in the world are the people that you'd least expect it from,
Yeah.
really. And they may not know everything about everything, but boy, they know a lot about what they know about. And some of those life hacks are really fascinating, actually.
Well, and it's
Um,
interesting you say that because they could be really smart in their field and what they're doing, but they might not know PR. They might not know how
right,
to speak well or promote themselves. And so they're almost like the best kept secret because they're really good in one thing, but they don't know how to share that with the
right,
world. And so it's not as out there as it could be or should be because a lot of times when people are really good in one thing, that doesn't make them really good in everything. Or
right.
they're so good at one thing, they're not great at everything else. And so they're not getting the proper attention or, accolades that they should because PR is not their thing. So it's interesting. You got to kind of
Some
be
of the
rounded.
Well, and we live in a world where it's one of the things I brought up. We live in this world it's ever evolving so fast, right? But some of the smartest people that I know and most brilliant, and I mean like savant people. If you don't know what a savant is, a savant is a person who's just born with this innate intelligence, whether they've ever tapped into it or not, who knows? But I mean, and I mean this with like, I really, and I hope everybody's watching me and hearing me say this. Some people that have never had the chance or haven't followed the path to become something else. Let's just say they are, I want to make sure I use the right word. They are domestic people, like a mom or a dad who is their job is to take care of their home or their kids or their spouse or whatever it may be. And so they may never have had a chance to do whatever, meaning they're just at home taking care of their family or themselves or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And they're some of the smartest, like brilliant people that have the most amazing life hacks and most amazing, thoughts. And I don't know, whatever. The whole point is that you never know where you're going to find a diamond. So never take somebody for granted. Never assume that they don't know what they're talking about just because they don't have a degree or a fancy thing on the wall. Everybody is brilliant at something. Everybody has something to give. And that's a big part, actually, Angie, about the RPEX. This is what I've said about changing the world, and I'm not joking. The thing that downloaded to me, one of the ways that we can help fix the world, and I won't go into the whole plan right now, but is that everybody has a place. And I think one of the problems in our society now, we have lost our way, our community. There's so little community. Like I said before, saying hello to somebody could be seen as a negative.
Yeah.
That I don't think that's the way life is supposed to
No,
be.
the pandemic definitely worsened all
It
that kind of stuff.
really, it really brought up a
Yeah.
lot of icky stuff for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I have a plan to put this. I wish I was a politician. I wish I knew somebody who wanted to be like, because this could make somebody president of the United States without any shadow of doubt. It is from A to Z a complete, and that's what the book is about. Anyway, that's what all this is about. So if you know any
Mm.
politicians that want to call Dr. Matt, if anybody knows RFK, have the man give me a call because I have it downloaded to me from the universe. So
Okay,
the
so let's talk
reason,
about that. When are you going to release your book? When are you going to
well,
release
I'm
your
still working
podcast?
on it. I'm still working on it. The
Okay.
podcast is really, so I had, my pup had ACL, complete ACL tear a month and a half ago. So I was really just about to do all these things. And then that's like a 24-hour deal when you have a super high maintenance Labrador. So,
Okay.
so everything's a little bit behind. So I don't have a
They got to come
timetable for.
first. I mean, it doesn't matter what's going on. Your
Look,
pet's
that's
got
my
to be number
baby.
one. Yeah.
I don't have kids. I wish I did. I don't have kids. But she's my kid, right? So she took,
Yeah.
my complete attention. And I'm still working on everything and still doing all this stuff. But soon, right? So I was actually just asked by, continuing education is something that professionals have to do.
Yep.
I'm assuming in any career, you have
I have
an
to do it.
accountant
Yep.
or a lawyer. Yeah. So in chiropractic, you have to do a yearly. So the people that do our continuing education, I mean, there's lots of them, but these people have been around for a long time, and they're brilliant, brilliant, brilliant guys, and men and women, and they are just so smart, so smart. Long story short is when I pitched my RPEX principle, again, repetitive physical, emotional, chemical stress syndrome is what that means. When I pitched this to them, they were like, you just blew me away. Like, you literally blew us away. We want a curriculum. We want this. We want to sponsor this. We want to send it so that you can teach it and be the expert at it. Teach it to the doctors for continuing ed. And
Mm.
it's a bit of a process because it has to get accepted and what's the word? Well, whatever,
Verified. Yeah.
yeah, it has to be like something. The challenge with a lot of what I'm doing, so when you introduce me and you ask what do I do, neuromuscular chiropractic, there's not a name for what I am. There's not a name
Mm.
for what I'm doing. So there's not a licensing board that could say, oh yeah, this is solid, right? So the challenge and the timing that you were just asking me about, how long, so when do we know that all this is going to happen? I'm trying to do so many things simultaneously that, but I am getting there. That slowed me down a little bit, but I should say, however, it's getting really close. And I have created the curriculum, and I have created all the things that are happening. And what I'm going to be doing with the Calling Dr. Matt, I don't know what they can see or can't see. The Calling Dr. Matt is sort of the callingdrmatt.com is the overall where everything's going to come from. And then we're going to have sort of this family tree, right? You can have RPEX concept and methodology. You can have the Real Talks, Real Docs podcast, which is, I hope, to be similar to what you do and model after you. And the idea behind it is to have an open forum, to have people, they don't have to be, I'm the doc, they don't have to be docs. They can be anybody that has
Yeah.
something important to say. And I want them to say it. You know, I want people to be heard. Like I said, some of the most ingenious things come from the least likely places. So, so it'll have this sort of drop down menu with all these things, and then I want to be able to teach the technique that I've created that
Yeah.
helps with the RPEX.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw the technique, if you recall, at the
Mm-hmm.
seminar at the
Yep.
conference. Um, and it has a lot to do with the temporomandibular joint dysfunction, a series of issues that happen from migraines to cluster headaches to, you know, stomach issues, all kinds of stuff. It all comes back to this RPEX principle. It is amazing. And I know I don't mean to keep teasing it, but I want to make sure I formulate things. I'm a very visual person.
Mm.
And so if I'm allowed, I'd love to be able to, when I have it formulated a little bit better, to be able to introduce it, you know, to the world and to you visually, because
Sure.
it starts sounding a little, you know, jumbled when I want to bring up, because it's a lot. But it's a way, it's going to help a lot of people. It's going to help our society, I hope, find its way back to each other, and sort of reinvigorate and give people a path and a light that they can go to, that is a mutually beneficial light for all, not just kids, not just parents, not just teachers, not just doctors. Everybody across the board is going to benefit from this. And one of the things I wanted to say to you, because we brought up a lot about the product and everything else, is that, and I hope that you'll agree, but you may not. One of the things that I tried really hard to do. Wait a minute, is that okay? I couldn't see. I thought you had a little doll of yourself in the back there.
That'd be
It's your
very
book.
funny.
It's your book. It's your book. I thought you had like
Okay.
an Angie Manson doll. I was gonna. Oh my god, that is so
I
cool.
need one of those. I got to
You
give you one of
could,
those.
yeah. It would have to be like super flexible. Well,
Yeah.
anywho, the reason I was bringing up now, maybe what was I? Now you guys are all gonna laugh at me, and that's okay. It's fine. I was saying something right before that.
I mean, I'm laughing
Okay,
at you. No, I'm kidding.
and that's okay. What was I saying right before the doll thing?
We may or may not agree with you.
That could be anything, right?
Ah,
Oh, for
all
the
right.
love of Pete.
It's all right.
But I
Well,
mean,
let me,
yeah,
yeah,
go
let me
ahead.
tell you
Go
this.
ahead.
Why don't we have you back on when you have this and ready for
Yeah,
the full visual? We could talk about the
would love it.
podcast. We'll talk about the
Yeah,
website. We'll get you back on.
would love it.
You've been a pleasure to have on the show. You're
Thank you.
extremely smart, gifted. I'm excited for you. I mean, this is,
Thank you.
life-changing, world-changing. And
Yeah,
I'm
it really
excited to
is.
see as it unfolds and as you unfold it. It's a big thing, but you're the guy for it. So I'm excited for
Yeah,
you.
thank you. It's so sweet. I really appreciate you having me on the show, and it means a lot, and it meant a lot. This actually, people don't know this, but it took us a year and a half to get here. I was supposed to do this, you know, a long time ago, but that's a whole other story. But I appreciate you, and for those that are listening out there, if you don't know Angie, other than, like I said, a passing fancy and listening to the podcast, dive into what she's doing, because what got you here is really quite an amazing story. It's inspiring and it's real, and I think that's what's important. It's real, just like what's happened to me. It's
Exactly.
real and genuine, and I think people can. I hope people can pair up with that. You know.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
and I know you mentioned this, how do our listeners get a hold of you if they're interested in your technique, your products, how they can connect with you, talk with you, interested in you?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because it is sort of a lot of things developing at the same time. So I will say this in advance, or in with that concept. Callingdrmatt.com, just nice and simple. Callingdrmatt.com, and we just created that like a week ago, right? So, but through that, you will now be able to find TheraPain Plus. You can go to there. TheraPain Plus Works on Instagram. TheraPain Plus Works is the Instagram handle. We just opened up a TikTok, right? So there's a lot of things that are happening and simultaneously happening. But if you go to the callingdrmatt.com, you can start getting your information from there, and you can contact me from there. And I'm going to start releasing YouTube videos, all sorts of things that will help the life hacks we're talking about.
Yeah.
I want to give people tangible things they can do on the daily to make their life better. And there's
Awesome.
no financial, nothing. This is the gift that I can give to help scratch that itch that where I can't help people by treating them like I used to, but there's still a lot of things that we can do to help, and that's a really important thing for me. So,
Awesome. Well, and
but calling Dr. Matt.com.
I'm a huge fan of your product. I use it. It
Thank
helps
you.
relieve my minor aches and pains, but I really believe in that. I believe in the ingredients in you. And
Thank you.
yeah, I encourage anybody who has an interest in that to reach out to Dr. Matt. We
Please.
utilize it at my treatment facility. Again, it just aligns holistically with what people should be taught, and how they can readjust what they're learning in life and what they know, and they don't have to be on medication to relieve their pain or inflammation. So I love that about it.
And they don't have to worry about and again, I want people to really get this. They should not feel guilty about having to do something as a stepping stone to something else, right? I just want to make sure I say that, right? We've made it clear what our thoughts are on medicine. We want to take as little of it as possible, but it's okay if you are taking it. Just do it responsibly, do it with the idea of not doing it forever. Like, try to find other things you can do to find good, positive ways to deal with whatever stress or anxiety or physical problems you have. But this does give you an option of having something natural to help align with that principle. So anyways, I really appreciate you having me so much.
Thank you for being on the show.
I look forward to being here again. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Ciao, Bella.
Bye.
Bye-bye.